are tuning in from, and welcome to the channel. Today's topic is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. We are going to be talking about the power of accountability. For those of you who are new and don't know who I am, my name is Claudeta Griffith. I am the author of the book Tough Love, and I am here to talk about how taking responsibility can unlock your full potential and lead to some lasting success. So the first thing I think we need to do is define it, right? Accountability is a topic that, like I said, is near to my heart. So whether you are working on your personal goals or professional goals, building a business or just trying to make it through the next day or the next week, because life be lifing, right? Accountability can make all the difference. I have seen it in my personal and professional life, and I've seen it in the lives of others, and I fully believe in it. But don't come here thinking that you can be lazy because you can't. You got to work, right? Just like most things in life, you got to work towards it in order for it to be effective. So here we go. Accountability is what I call like a secret sauce that is like a catalyst that propels us forward in our lives, right? So to get to the bottom of what accountability is what matters, right? And it's also what can transform your life along with all other decisions that you make in your life. Now, the Oxford definition of accountability, I'm going to read it so I can make sure I don't screw it up, right? It is the fact or condition of being accountable, which does not tell me much because I need details. Anyway, there's another definition of it that says that it is a person or organization or an institution that is required or expected to justify decisions or actions and be responsible. Now, I have come to the belief in my own experience and understanding that the word is deeper than that, right? I believe accountability is to accept responsibility for my actions, my decisions, as well as the fallout or the result. That's what a lot of us sometimes try to escape. You are free to make whatever decision you want to make in your life, but you are not free from consequence. So taking ownership of my tasks or the actions of people that I'm responsible for, that is important to me because I'm a veteran. So that came with part of my job with being a leader. I wasn't just responsible for myself, I was responsible for other people. I digress before I catch a headache. Moving on. It's about owning your goals, staying consistent, and then not letting yourself off the hook when things don't go your way and when they get tough. Because, like I said, life be life, and we ain't none of us gonna make it through this journey called life alive. So we gonna have to try to figure out how to navigate through it. And accountability is one of those things that it's like a superpower. I think it's a superpower. But you have to be aware of your superpower in order to use it effectively to help you in your life. And at its core, it's really about a commitment that you make to yourself or to a goal. And when you're accountable, you commit to following through with whatever you say you're going to do, right? Not just for yourself, but if you're a part of a team or an organization, it's about what you say to them as well. Accountability also means that you make a commitment to yourself and take action to correct your mistakes. You can't just let things be jacked up because that's not what accountability is, right? Excuse me. You have to have the humility to apologize, which is another big thing that often runs people in the ground because swallowing your pride and admitting that you made a mistake or that you were wrong is hard for some people. I don't quite understand it because perfection does not exist. There's no perfect being. So we're all going to make a mistake here and there. But it takes a person of great fortitude, in my estimation, to humble themselves and say, you know what? My bad. I apologize. I'm sorry. However you want to word it, I effed up, whatever, in order to move forward. Because as long as you stay stuck in your pride, you're just going to be like on a treadmill. You're not going to go anywhere. You can burn all the calories, you can exhaust yourself, but you're not going to really go anywhere. Um, and not only to apologize, but to learn from it and then make a honest decision to pay it forward and teach other people so that possibly they won't go down the same path that you did or that you are on, because paying it forward is another beautiful superpower that I think more people should have. So whether it's personal or professional success, accountability is going to be a game changer, right? And there's this huge power in knowing that you are not alone. Some people can move through life on their own, doing solo projects and being successful on their own. Although I don't believe that any one person makes or breaks themselves, I believe that there are people in the background that help us. Again, I digress because that's just my opinion. Um, but accountability is an active practice, right? It's a conscious decision that we make, taking ownership of our actions, like I said before, our decisions, our behaviors. And then you notice the operative word in that is practice, right? Is practice does not make perfect, practice makes progress. That's the way I look at it because, like I said, I don't believe in perfection. And there is no one and done, right? It's about being responsible for your commitments. It's about doing things on a repetitive basis and then checking back in with yourself, right? It's easy to think about accountability as like something frivolous, like just answering to a coach or a boss or a coworker, but it has a deep intrinsic component, right? When you hold yourself accountable, you're setting expectations for your own actions, right? And following through with them. Not just saying that I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to go to the gym, but you're saying that and you're actually doing it. Not saying that I'm going to write my 500-word essay before Tuesday when it's due Friday. It's actually doing that, right? So it's more than a to do list, it's a mindset, it's a paradigm shift within your life that can yield great results. But the commitment has to be there, the follow up has to be there, the course correction has to be there, the support, if you need it, has to be there, the transparency has to be there. It's a buffet of resources that are available to you if only you reach out and get them. You also got to be honest with yourself, right? Sometimes I like I like well seasoned food, right? And I consider conversation with profanity like Zatarans or slap your mama or season and salt, right? So sometimes I go to the bathroom or a mirror near me and I have to get in my ass sometimes because I'm on some BS. So sometimes I have to be the person to say, look, girl, stop being a fucking liar. You said you was gonna do X, Y, and Z. Then just get off your ass and go do it. I don't need anybody else to boot camp drill sergeant me. I don't need nobody else to do that because I can beat myself up pretty bad. I'm not saying that that's something that for you, but that's just a method that I use for myself. And don't get me wrong, I don't always curse myself out, but I do have stern conversations with myself because sometimes the you can do it, come on, ain't enough. Sometimes I need to whip myself into shape, if you will. I have to recognize when I fall short because again, you might hear me beat a dead horse about perfection because I don't particularly care for the word, but when I don't quite get it right, there is grace in that. Don't get me wrong. There is grace that I show myself and I extend to other people if I'm on a team or whatever. However, that consistent attention to detail with it when it comes to the goal is always going to be there. It needs to be there, right? And it's important that when you work with somebody else, whether it's a coach, whether it's a friend, whether it's a colleague at work, it creates a layer of responsibility for you and for them, right? So it forces you to show up. You I got your back and you got mine. At least that's the way it should be. And if I'm going to enter into a partnership, if it ain't I got your back and you got mine, guess what? This partnership has been severed. I need to move on because if we're not going to be looking out for one another, then what exactly are we doing? Just saying. Um, so it's easy to back out of promises that you make to yourself, right? I know I've done it before. Before I became a person who would have stern conversations with myself, sometimes I would back out and that would be it because nobody knew what I was supposed to be doing but me. So, oh well, moving on to the next thing that I'm gonna lie to myself about. I'm not lying to myself, but ultimately, I guess if you don't fulfill your promise that you made to yourself, you are a bit of a liar. So, but when somebody else is involved, it's a different ball game because I don't want to quit. I don't want to let that person down. I don't want them to think that my word is garbage. My mother used to tell me that you may not have a dollar to your name, but you have your word. And if you say you're going to do something, then you do it. And if you cannot do that, then you need to communicate to whoever it is that you're responsible to that you're unable to do it. And you need to tell them why, because that's part of being responsible. So I carry that with me and I try to stick to that. But ultimately, it's all about being reliable, trustworthy, and your moral character, that core, that moral fiber, that being within yourself. You, I tell people, we get to decide who we are every day that we wake up, right? And if I was not the Claudetta that I know I could be, my best self yesterday, then today I get the chance to try to make that better. Whether that comes with an apology to someone else, whether that comes with an apology to myself, whatever the case is, I try to rectify that. And then I just try to do that every day. Now, some days I don't. However, there is always tomorrow, God willing. I can try to make tomorrow better. So let's talk about um, why, like, working with people and validation and needing support is important. I think it's because we crave the sense of external validation sometimes, not necessarily to the same degrees with everyone, but I think sometimes there is a crave for external validation. And even if we don't always admit it, it's fine. The story that you tell yourself, it's fine. You got to live with it. So hopefully it's a good story, but either way, we all have to live with what we tell ourselves, right? But having someone else invested in our progress, whether that's a regular check-in or whether they just rooting for us, saying, girl, go ahead, you can do that, you got this, I'm on your side, I'm rooting for you, it gives us a extra boost. The motivation is a good thing. So if it's something like, I used to play Mario Brothers when I was a kid. I might be dating myself, but whatever. It's like when you level up, it goes and you power up. It's like a boost of energy. So someone having your back saying, I believe in you, that means a lot to me. Like I said, there are people in this world who go around and maybe they don't need anybody, but my motivation for myself is one thing, but having someone believe in me, that means the world to me. So I just want you to think about, why you think accountability matters, or why you think it means so much, or if you don't, why don't you? You don't have to say anything to me. That's something for you to think about for yourself. And do you think it's possible to build accountability into our lives without depending on other people? Just something to ponder, as you sit in the mirror or meditate or sit on the couch or whatever. Just something to think about. I will tell you why I think it matters. I think it matters because it's a bridge. I think that it's a bridge between setting a goal and achieving a goal, right? Because there's a space. I set it, but there's all this space in between here and here actually making it happen, right? So we all know the typical setting, like New Year's resolutions. So do any of these sound familiar to you? I'm just gonna rattle a couple of them off. I'm gonna get my credit together. I'm gonna be financially stable, right? Or I'm gonna apply for the promotion, or I'm gonna lose 10 pounds. I'm gonna lose 20 pounds, or I'm gonna get my degree. I can't say all, but for some of us, we've been there, right? And I know that I have made some in my life. And to answer your question, if you think, do I think it's possible to build accountability into our lives without depending on others? I definitely think it's possible. I don't want to do it without a village, because I don't know, I think we're stronger together. But moving on. In fact, I think one of the first steps to learning how to hold yourself accountable is with a village, right? Making a resolution is the easy part to yourself or to a group or to an organization, in comparison to the total commitment that needs to happen. The real challenge comes with following through. Like I said, it's the commitment, right? It's the sticking through, not just talking it. It's what I call walking your talk. Talk is cheap, action speaks. Some of the physiological aspects of accountability that we have to deal with is that it helps you stay on track, right? It provides a structure within your life. There, you have your own intrinsic motivation, but you also have external motivation, and it also fosters a sense of responsibility within you or within your team. As a matter of fact, there was a study, I'm going to read this, conducted by the National Library of Medicine, that shows that holding people or teams accountable significantly improves their performance, their decision making, and they're more likely to succeed in their goals because they tend to experience higher levels of motivation. They have increased focus and an even greater satisfaction. It turns out that knowing that somebody is watching can be a big motivator. because you might screw up, but just because somebody is there believing in you, that's it's there. You have to excuse me because for those of you that don't know, menopause snatches my words. So therefore, I write everything that I can think of down because it eases the anxiety within me. So there's that, in case you're wondering why I keep looking down, because I got to check my notes to make sure I'm not screwing up and leaving something out. It's also about setting clear, achievable goals and creating systems that make it harder for you to back out, right? A goal that I write down is one that I got to be held to a standard of completing. A goal in my mind, like I just said about menopause, Mother Nature can take that, and it's not necessarily my fault that I forgot. However, I am in menopause. So part of my accountability, knowing that I have brain fog, knowing that I'm forgetful of things that are outside of my control, I have to write them down, or at least I make the decision. I don't have to necessarily do it, but I write them down because things are important to me. And in order for things to move the way I want them to move in my life, I prioritize them. So therefore I write them down, right? But that's my intrinsic motivation. And when you know that you're holding yourself to a standard, it pushes you to take the necessary steps when your motivation is low. So like I said, writing things down, I might not necessarily want to go to the grocery store, but when I write out that grocery list, I know I got to go get this stuff. So I can't be making up, I can't use the fact that I got brain fog as an excuse, because I already held myself accountable by making the list. So now I'm going to the grocery store and I'm going to get these groceries. Maybe a couple impulse purchases, but I digress. Moving on. Okay, so for example, about when your motivation is low, like when you make a promise to yourself, like I said, I write it down, track your progress. The way I track my progress with the example from my grocery list is that as I grab an item on my list, I just line it out. Because another thing that I sometimes screw up and do is I'll grab something twice. I'll go around the grocery store and I'll come back to grab some heavy cream or whatever. And then I'll look in the basket and there's two heavy creams down there. I'm just like, where'd this other one come from? It's because I picked it because I picked it up already. Moving on. But along with tracking your progress, celebrate your wins, right? So with regard to the grocery list, although I picked up two heavy creams, right? I do celebrate my win because I remembered to look at the list and I grabbed it once. And even if I thought I was going to forget about it or whatever, I still checked the list and grabbed it twice. Now I do put one of them back, but I'm proud of myself because sometimes I have written out a grocery list, put it in my pocket, went to the store and forgot that it was in my pocket. I wish I could be making this up, but I'm not. So I celebrate my wins, right? No matter how small. And I learn from every setback, or at least I try to, right? Because it's all about creating a framework for your life. Because I think that when you practice something, when you're repetitive about it, it becomes a way of life for you. That becomes how you do things, right? So writing down things, journaling, that's a part of my life, and that's a part of who I am. So that helps me stay on track for me. But everybody's different. So some things that I do might not work for you, but the goal is to find out what works for you and then put it into practice so that you can be successful in your life, right? And then it's all about creating that framework, like I said, where your habit becomes automatic, right? And that internal accountability can actually become more sustainable in the long run. Because let's be real, whether you just started something new or whether you've been doing it for a long time, it can be tough, right? Because every day is not the same as yesterday, and it's not always sunshine and rainbows, right? But having external accountability can fill the gap when you're building that muscle that you want to be repetitive in using. It's kind of like learning to swim. You need the floaties at first, or the little things on your arm, or the board. They give you the board that you can swim with. But eventually, you definitely want to be able to swim on your own and do those strokes by yourself and leave those boards alone. And speaking of external accountability, let's talk about some of the different ways to find it, right? I have seen people join groups. I've done it myself. I have groups now. I have accountability partners. I even use digital tools on my phone. There are social media platforms that you can be on. There are different apps. There are different checklists that you can use. It really depends on the person, right? and what your specific goals are, because I'm a big fan of pairing up goals. And I'm also a big fan of pairing up with someone who has some similar goals, or someone who is like minded, or at least has like a shared interest in personal growth. If you're just interested in growing personally, that's good enough for me. But it's important that they're not just a cheerleader, but it's somebody who's going to challenge you, somebody who's going to call you out on your stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because if we're going to be accountability partners, that's part of being accountable and holding each other accountable. Now, they don't have to curse me out like I curse me out, but just to be like, yo, that was 8 and not 10. Right? We supposed to be doing 10 reps, or we were supposed to be here at 8 and it's 8:10. What's going on? Let's have a conversation. When you start slacking, you need somebody to be in your corner, and that to me is a respectful thing, because why are we partners if we're not going to hold each other accountable? And I also, like I said, I also like using digital tools, especially because sometimes face-to-face check-ins are not always available. Sometimes you can't always be there. So things like Zoom, and there's another one that I use, Google Meet. There's different tools that you can use to check in, or just a text, a picture. I remember one time I was doing a accountability declutter check with one of my sisters, and what we would do is we would take a picture of our space that we were going to clean up before we cleaned it, and then we would give ourselves a certain time frame. Sometimes I would give myself an hour, sometimes she would give herself 30 minutes, whatever it was. And then after we finished our task, we would take a picture of the room after we decluttered it and cleaned it, and send it to each other. But there are also, if you don't want to do that, there are also apps. There's an app called Habitica. I think that's how you pronounce it, Habitica, and Google Calendar. You can use those to track your tasks or your goals. And that's just another great way to stay accountable, right? Like, again, I said the key is for you to find out what works for you, or for your group, and then go forward with that. And don't forget, adjustments can be done. Nothing is a one and done. There is no one size fits all. Sometimes you start off with something that sounds great, or it feels great, or it looks great, and then you get a little bit into the weeds of it, and you're like, this sucks. So you can change it. You know what I'm saying? Tomorrow's another day, or start in the middle of the day, or however you want to do it, but make the adjustments that you feel you need to make so that you can go forward and be fruitful in your endeavors. Okay. So just find the method that works for you and plug in. And for some people, like when I was talking about social media, public declarations, people need to do that, or they want to do that. Sometimes that helps too. I've seen celebrities do it, where they do runs and stuff, or they are trying to rebrand or something like that, and they'll go online and say, well, what do you guys think about this as opposed to that, or this is what we were doing and we want to try to move in a direction, and what type of ideas do you have for that? That's all well and good too. Again, variety is the spice of life. So let's go forward and use all of those tools so that we can be successful. It doesn't have to be one thing. It could be 3 things. It could be 13 things. It could be whatever things you need so that you can do what you need to do in your life. Tell the world what you're working on. And whether it's on social media, or it's a blog, or even if you just talk to your family about it, the support is still going to be there. And knowing that others are aware of your goals, it can add an extra layer of pressure along with support. And sometimes it could be just the nudge that you need to get you going, or to keep you going. Because sometimes we don't always need that nudge to get off of our butts. Sometimes we're already up and moving, and we need that, you got this, in order to keep going. Real quick, I want to give you guys a difference between accountability and micromanagement, because sometimes, due to poor application, I guess, and misrepresentation, they can look alike. But I'm finna clear some things up for you if you're confused. Accountability means that you're focused on tasks, you're focused on goals, you're focused on outcomes and feedback. And it's done with a leadership style that fosters a sense of trust, and it provides you guidance, and it provides you with resources, and again, it provides you with feedback. It encourages ownership, right? It fosters critical thinking skills, problem solving. It builds your confidence, it increases your responsibility, and it's goal oriented, right? It empowers the team members to be their best self every day. It does not punch down, and it fosters development and empowerment. Okay. So that is accountability. Now here comes boom, boom, micromanagement. It controls the process of how many tasks are done. It's super nitpicky, right? It's kind of the my way or the highway style of leadership. It has little to no trust. It involves constant supervision and a lot of criticism. Sorry, I was having a flashback. A lot of criticism. It creates frustration, distrust. It creates a lack of confidence, stress. If you ever heard of the term hostile work environment, baby, that's right up micromanagement's alley. It has a high turnover rate and it has a lot of burnout. A lot of burnout. And it requires that you ensure that the work is done exactly to specifications, right? But it might catch errors, right? But it does so at the expense of the team, right? All those things that I just mentioned, the team suffers for that. And it's at the expense of the employees and their growth and their morale, because your morale is like down in the dumps. Because who wants somebody hanging over their shoulder all the time and telling them each and everything to do? I'm a firm believer that if you train your team right, they can operate in your absence. And that's not a slight to you. It's an attaboy, because you should be training people to be self-sufficient in whatever their capacity is. Moving on. Uh, the positive vibes are always welcome, right? In any space that I'm in, and it should be in any space that you're in, unless you work in a negative environment. I don't know why you would, but okay, moving on. But we should also talk about the other side, right? About the positivity. There's an opposite side of that coin, and what happens is the side when you face adversity, some obstacles, some what do they call them? Some cancellations, things of that nature, right? When That's when it seems like accountability fails, but it did not fail, right? I think some of us have been there where you have some issues, some roadblocks, some obstacles in your path or whatever, and you set the goals, and then you get an accountability partner, but somewhere along the way, you or they drop the ball, right? So the question that I have for you to ponder for yourself, you ain't got to answer in the chat unless you want to. What do you do then, right? You got the dreaded, oh man, I fell off track. Man, I failed. Failing is when you run into opposition and you quit. That's when you fail. That's failure, right? But there's going to be stumbling blocks along the way when you're doing whatever you're doing. I don't care what the situation is. If you're a software engineer or you're a chef, no matter what you're doing, you may run into a snag, but it's about how you recover from that, right? And I think that that is important, because a lot of times, depending on how motivated or how driven you are, you might beat yourself up a little bit too much. I wouldn't say I'm a fan of pity parties, but I know that they happen. I've had some myself, and it's cool, right? Because I feel like there's an alignment or realignment that needs to happen when you're in that pity party. But you don't need to stay there too long, because poop or get off the pot, right? Let's get it together. It's not easy, because hell, if if life in general was easy, right? We would not be here. Wouldn't be nobody tuning in, right? Life is a motherfucker, right? But we get up every day and we put that best foot forward when we go and we apply our tactics, our methods to be successful. We apply all of those things with the best intentions in mind. Don't always happen. That's cool, but we need to recover, right? We're all going to face challenges, and that is okay. What matters the most is how we deal with those challenges. And I'm here to tell you that you are not alone when it comes to opposition. You are not alone when it comes to apprehension. You're not alone when it comes to obstacles. None of that. You are not alone. So what some of those obstacles might look like, right? All of our obstacles do not look the same. So your obstacles may come in the form of procrastination. They may come in the form of fear of failure. They may come in the form of what is the one where you feel like you don't belong? Identity. I can't remember because I didn't write it down, and menopause is messing with me right now. But I know what I'm trying to say, and if you know, you can put it in the comments, and then I can be like, "Thank you." But I know that procrastination is a huge one, right? But we often put things off, and we tell ourselves, "Oh, I get around to it when I get around to it, or when I get well, I'll get to it later, or whatever." But we know that the deadline is coming, and for some of us, the deadline is past, and then we've made little to no progress. So we're not doing ourselves any favors, right? Because we didn't accomplish things, right? But there is the retrack, right? We can get ourselves back on track. Another hurdle is, like I said, fear of failure. Sometimes we avoid being held accountable because we are afraid of disappointing other people or ourselves, right? But check this out. Accountability is not about perfection. Again, can't stand that word. Don't even know why it exists. Moving on. It's about staying in the game even when you're down, right? It ain't over. You still got an opportunity to get yourself back in the game. And that's the more accurate way, I think, of measuring like how we stack up. It's not how many times we fall, it's how many times we get back up. And as long as I draw breath, my motto is I can still make it, right? So we're moving on to another obstacle, motivation, right? Even with the best intentions, motivation can still be missing. It's where your internal motivation ain't working, and sometimes you might need some external motivation to get you going. Sometimes it might be your child watching you try to accomplish a goal. It might be a protege trying to watch you do something, or a peer at work. um, and when you have somebody depend on you, it's sometimes easier for you to stay motivated. And I think that it's okay if you only have one style of motivation and not the other, whether it's intrinsic, internal and not external, or external and not internal. It doesn't matter. My thing is, as long as I'm motivated, I don't care where I don't care where it comes from, as long as it comes, so that I can keep going doing what I need to do. And like I said, the most important thing is to overcome your challenges, right? The consistency is key. So it don't matter if you fall down 5 times. You're consistent about getting back up. So, ta-da, you're a winner. And if I know one thing, I know that life gonna continue to do what it want to do, whether we got our stuff together or not. Life gonna keep being life, and we gonna have to stay in the game, right? But here's a bit of advice that I have for you guys. When things slip up, instead of like abandoning your goal altogether and just saying screw it because I can't handle it and it's too much, take a breath, take a step back, reassess your situation, and then find a way to get back into the groove, right? And you have tools, so reach out. Sometimes a little humility is going to come into play to say, I couldn't do it by myself, or we weren't able to accomplish the goals that we set forth. Can you help me? It's all good, because it's about resilience. It's about getting back in the game, right? And if you fall off track, you just find out why, and then you make a course correction, and then you get back on track. Simple as that. Not simple, but simple as that. Sometimes accountability, sometimes it just means forgiving yourself, because sometimes we do bite off more than we can chew. But you got to forgive yourself and say, okay, I didn't get it right. No, nobody gets it right all the time. All right, now we learn from this mistake, and then we recommit to our goal, and then we move on, right? One of the biggest obstacles, I think, of accountability is fear, is the shame or fear or guilt that you're going to feel that you didn't meet your goals, right? Some of us are super hard on ourselves. I know I'm hard on myself, and I know some other people might be as well. So it can be difficult, but it's okay to be kind to yourself. You know what I'm saying? You gonna be with you longer than anybody else, right? You're with yourself the most. So it's okay to be kind to yourself. It's okay to love on yourself. It's okay to reset and keep going. The journey is not linear, y'all. I mean, it's about having a flexible approach to accountability. And that's really the big key, is to be flexible. Because as long as you're rigid, right, there's nothing that can penetrate that, right? You got to be flexible. And that's the way to be. At least that's the way that works for me. Uh, I want to tell you guys something else. No matter what I say when I'm talking to you, sometimes I get so passionate about whatever my topic is. It seems like I'm telling you what to do. I'm not necessarily doing that. speak in a way sometimes that seems like my opinion is fact, but it's only a fact to me. So I just want to make sure I put that out there. Um, and I also want you to know that some of you guys might be wondering, like, how can you turn practicing accountability uh, how can you make it work in your favor? So some actionable steps that I've learned to take uh, as an instructor in the Navy. We were taught an acronym called SMART. You may have heard of it, and it's SMART. Stands for specific, M stands for measurable, A stands for achievable, R stands for realistic or relevant, and the T stands for time bound or time sensitive. And I find it to be very, very effective. So we're going to jump right in with number one, setting specific goals for yourself, right? Saying that you want to paint your house is not specific enough, because your house has an inside and an outside, right? It has a living room, it has a dining room, maybe it has a kitchen, various rooms in your house, right? So what I mean by that is to be more specific. The title or your total goal is to paint the house, but you need to be more specific about where you want to start, right? You're not going to start at the floor and paint up, right? You're going to start at the ceiling, hopefully, maybe, and paint down. You're going to tape everything off first. You're going to make sure that you remove whatever covers you have, things of that nature. Be specific about how you want to accomplish that goal, right? And have that be a constant. And like I said, it helps to write things down. Number two, make your goals measurable. Make sure that you have a plan in place to assess your progress with your outcome in mind. Make sure that you're tracking what you're doing. You know how much paint you got, how much paint you need, how many rollers, if you have the paper suit or if you're going to wear the plastic suit, the specifics, right? Number three, make sure that your goals are achievable. I had a goal of doing something similar with a DIY project, and very quickly I realized that I was outside of my expertise and I needed to call in a professional. I had no problems with stopping what I was doing, reassessing, and then finding a qualified, reputable business to come and tackle this job for me, because I bit off more than I could chew. But once again, reassess, redirect, course correct, move on smartly, right? And don't cheat yourself by making a goal so impossible that you can't complete, and then you capitulate and say screw it, right? Challenge yourself at the same time. Make sure that you set yourself up for success. That's the beauty of having resources, because just in case you can't do it, you can find someone else to help you. I mean, otherwise, what's the point? It's like, number four, making your goals realistic or relevant. This ain't no fairy tale. Make sure that you understand your why. We all have a why as to what why we're doing whatever it is we're doing, right? Whether you're going to complete a degree, whether you're going to learn how to swim, whether you're going to learn how to bake a cake, whether you're going to learn how to sew, whatever the situation is, remember your why and make sure you're solid on that why and you have buy-in, right? Um, Number five, make sure that your goals are time bound or time sensitive. If you provide yourself with a timeline of 6 weeks or a month or whatever, make sure that you follow it with the frequency of your timelines and your deadlines. You will know exactly what you're working towards, and then you can track your progress. And it also lets you know um, whether you can allot more time for something in the future, your next step, if you will, or whether you need to kind of tighten up on the goal that you're on right now so that you can achieve the next step, because that one might be more labor intensive or thought provoking or whatever. It's very important that you know exactly what you're working towards. You could also share your goals with someone else, again, accountability partner, someone who can hold you accountable. This could be a friend, a family member, a colleague, a boss, a mentor. You pick. It's your goal. You decide who you want to be on your team, basically. Telling somebody else about your goals it makes them more real, right? And it's not something that you can just be like, whoop, forgot about that. But also don't pick somebody like, I have brain fog with with menopause, right? It wouldn't probably be smart for me to pick somebody else with menopause experiencing brain fog because we're both screwed, right? So be smart about who you pick as your accountability partner. It's also important to use some type of accountability plan, right? Again, writing it down. It's not just about checking in. It's about having a plan, excuse me, to break your goals down into smaller bite-sized pieces. It's kind of like that phrase, how do you eat an elephant? It's like one bite at a time. Obviously, I'm not going to eat an elephant. We're not going to eat elephants, but you get the gist, hopefully, of what I'm trying to say. Um, I guess it's similar. A better way to say it, I guess, is like cutting your food into smaller pieces, right? You got a big piece of meat or a big potato or something like that on your plate. You want to cut it down into smaller bites so that you're not sitting there gorging with a cheek full of food. Okay, so there we go. And maybe instead of having a timeline for completing your steps, maybe set regular check-ins with your accountability partner, whether that be phone, email, video chat, meet up at the local cafe, have a cup of coffee, however you want to do it. It's all about the way that works best for you and your accountability partner, right? And during your check-ins, you need to discuss your progress, not just the good stuff, because sometimes we always want to be talking about, oh, this is great, this is awesome. Talk about them roadblocks too, because you're gonna have to learn how to deal with adversity, because that's a part of life. We're not all sunshine and rainbows in life, right? And when you talk about those roadblocks, talk about the adjustments that you need to make in those situations so that you can be more successful going forward, right? And you never know what you talk about. That person may be motivated by you to do something, and you may be sharing some information with them that can help them in their goals. I know that in the past I've had meetings, professional meetings, where I sat in, and I wasn't necessarily interested in what was being discussed at the time, but after the fact, years later or something, I had a situation where I was in an organization, and that particular topic came up, and I was thinking to myself, oh man, I remember when I had that meeting. I didn't necessarily care, but it was my job, so I did it, whatever. But now I can actually serve me and the group that I'm participating with. So you just never know what source of inspiration or motivation, you never know where it may come from. So just be mindful of that too. um be honest with yourself, right? Again, sometimes we avoid accountability because we're afraid to admit that we haven't kept up our end of the bargain with ourselves. So just be honest with yourself, because honesty really is the best policy. Um, and this is what will help you choose like it'll help you choose how to get on track, course correct, and stay on track. Being honest with yourself, right? Always, always celebrate yourself, celebrate your team, celebrate your wins. I do not care how small or how big it is. Celebrate yourself every step of the way. Now, I'm not talking about go out and party all the time, every day that you accomplish a goal, but it's okay to clap it up. It's okay to whoop, whoop, like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's okay. High fiving, elbows, whatever, chest bumps, if that's your thing. Whatever ways that you celebrate. If it's a glass of wine, if it's a soda, if it's a water, it doesn't matter what it is. Celebrate, because it's hard work paying off. So why wouldn't you celebrate it? Don't just let other people celebrate you. Celebrate yourself. And I am a firm believer that if nobody else will clap for me, I'm clapping for my damn self. You better know it, because I'm my number one cheerleader. You got to be your number one cheerleader for yourself. Don't wait for somebody else to pat yourself on the back. Pat your own self on the back, because accountability is not just holding yourself to the account of what you are doing right. It's also holding yourself accountable to what you did wrong. Now, most people don't want to hear that, but that comes with the territory. It is what it is. Um, give yourself credit for your hard work, but also make sure that you hold yourself accountable when you screw up, because that's what happens with life. So, after all that rambling on I just did, I'm going to wrap this up, right? I promise. With my wrap up, I want to remind you that accountability is a muscle, right? And you can build it over time. Just like the muscles, if you go to the gym, you can build those over time. Just like your mental muscle, you can build it over time. Same thing. It is the ability to turn dreams into plans and plans into achievements, right? But remember, accountability is not about perfection. I'm going to say it again. Accountability is not about perfection. It is about progress. It is about learning from your mistakes. It is about paying it forward. It is, and that doesn't matter whether you use an external support, whether it's internal. It doesn't matter what strategies you use. It just matters that you use them and that you stay committed to using them. So the next time that you set a goal, do not just write it down and forget about it. I want you to find a way to make yourself accountable, right? And whether it's through regular check ins, the buddy system, or setting clear deadlines for yourself or your team, be consistent and always be kind to yourself along the way. Sometimes I give myself hugs, like for real hugs, because you got to love on yourself. We're the only us we're going to have. So love on yourself. So if you are struggling with accountability, start small. As small, and if small is too big, then go smaller than that. Go as small as you need to where you can start, because that's the goal, is to start and to stay going, right? Find someone to check in and create that list that makes it easier for you to stay on track. And remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about making progress. So with that, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me ramble. I hope that you are inspired to take action on your goals or your team's goals. And I want you to remember that accountability is your ally, it is your friend. And with it, you can achieve anything that you set your mind to, as long as you continue to work towards that. So I will see you guys next time. And in the meantime, I want you to take some ownership. I want you to stay accountable, and I want you to keep pushing forward. And if you have enjoyed this episode, I would love if you would like, comment, subscribe, or share it. Pick something to do. Or you could save it and listen to it later. And if you know someone who could benefit from it, please share that with them. And until next time, take care.